like Wrexham, it's a positive week for Mansfield because they are through in the FA Cup. They are also on a very good run of form, but we're not here just to kind of pile in on the Mansfield loving. I'm sure Craig and Mansfield Matters, the guys over there, can do enough of that. If you want to go check them out, listen to them. Craig, it has been, as I said, it has been very good for Mansfield. Myself and Rich feel a bit foolish because we did predict you pre-season, hands up, anyone who's watching, that you would finish about 18th, 19th. Has it surprised you how well you've done so far? I know it's early days, I know it's really early in the season, but have you been surprised how well you've taken to League One?
Yes and no. I think the whole prediction of where we finish, we'd absolutely take that because I think 99% of Mansfield fans couldn't care less where we finish as long as it's outside of the bottom four, because this season's for us has always been about consolidation and just staying up and building for the future. That's, Nigel Clough, it's actually his anniversary of becoming Mansfield manager. He's been speaking today about the longevity of his time in charge and how it takes time to build. So we were sort of expecting this season to be one of building, with none of us realistically, 99.9% of us. There's one or two who pop up on the podcast and we've had a few debates over it of, talk about back-to-back promotions and all of that nonsense. Could not care less. It's all about staying up. So am I surprised? A little bit, because I expected us to struggle, especially sort of seeing how we played in the opening few games. We really looked susceptible to conceding on the counter-attack and really looked vulnerable at times. But actually, transfer deadline day did us a massive favour. Getting rid of Davis Keillor-Dunn for a shed load of cash is great because, as much as we don't want to see a player like that depart and sort of, move on a hero of the club, what it's done is forced a hand to change formation. And since we've done that, we've been absolutely sublime. We've looked a lot tighter at the back. And actually, it comes in no surprise to see us going, because that's the Nigel Clough DNA, being hard to beat one game after the other. We're under no illusions that a bad run will at some point come, but to be, fourth in the table after X amount of games at this stage of the season in League One, it's great, but I don't think the real core of Mansfield fans really care about that at the moment, because the only thing they care about is being as far away from the bottom four as possible. So anyone who made those early pre-season predictions of finishing, 15th, 18th, whatever it may be, as long as it's outside the bottom four, we don't care.
It's quite funny though, isn't it? That sometimes that actually selling your best player or moving on from your best player can actually be for the benefit, which is like kind of this perverse way of looking at it, going, Davis Keillor-Dunn, everyone would have said, he's Mansfield's best player. Did he win League Two Player of the Year in the end?
He was up there,
was up there, was in the final three. I'm pretty sure he pipped Elliot Lee to it. I think he won it.
I think he did,
was fabulous last year, and anyone who wasn't watching Mansfield week in week out would go, that's the guy, stop him. And it's for our lot who listen and maybe haven't seen much of Mansfield, just except the games we played against you. It is funny how you can get rid of your best player and actually then improve.
Yeah, it's weird because actually you're spot on, and he was our best player last season, and without him, undoubtedly we would still be in League Two because of the contribution he brought to the team. But his position and the role he played in that suited League Two football to a T. But does it suit League One football? Arguably not, with the way that Mansfield want to play. It left us vulnerable in areas, and, it's just one of those things, isn't it, where you can't stand in anybody's way. We've got no qualms about him leaving. Of course, there's going to be a small percentage that are frustrated and won't like him when he comes back. But actually, most other people wish him well, because we more than quadrupled the outlay that we got from him in terms of financial, bringing him in and then him going out. He's done he did what he came in to do, which was score goals and get us promoted. We've shipped him on to another club. We wish him the best in his career. And it's like we say with every footballer, really. It's such a short career, isn't it, in terms of the amount of years that you're able to go out and earn a wage. You don't stand in anyone's way wanting to go for more money and to try and better themselves and be the best they can be. And actually, like you say, it has done us a favour. And it is a little bit perverse in a way, but actually, if he'd have stuck around, of course he'd have played every single week, because he's got the talent to do it. But in order to play him every single week, we've got to play a certain way and a certain style. And at League One, I don't quite think that would pay off. So actually, it's done us a massive favour, and we've had to adapt accordingly. And so far, touch wood, we're adapting quite well. And long may that continue. But it's game by game. It's been and gone. We don't look beyond the next fixture. Nigel Clough has done something weird to us. Every other football fan always looks at like a chunk of games, don't they? But Nigel Clough has got us so grounded. It's so weird. Like we can't really remember who we played last weekend because it's been and gone. We can't alter it, and we ain't got a clue who we played in 3 weeks because all we're looking at is the next game, which happens to be you guys.
You've all been brainwashed, which is very impressive for Nigel Clough, given what else he's doing. What I will say, though, in terms of the outlay, because one of the big talking points, especially among colleagues of mine, is, well, look at the spending in League One, and it's largely around Birmingham. Peterborough spent a fair wedge. We spent, 500,000 on players here, and spent $1 million on basically 2 players, Mo Farl and Ollie Rathbone. But when I looked at your business, it was a pretty frugal summer. I mean, there's one headline name there that was familiar in Welsh football. We'll get onto very shortly. But I mean, some of the names I'm looking at here: Keanu Bacchus who was at St Mirren, I believe, before that. Deji Oshilaja, probably pronouncing that wrong now.
No, just call him Dave. We do.
Dave. Okay.
Yeah, just say Dave. It's easier.
Dave. Okay. Yeah. Fraser Blake Tracy's been around the block. He was at Swindon. He'll be familiar to people. Lee Gregory, who was obviously a stalwart higher up. He was at Sheffield Wednesday before. Ben Quinn as well. Somebody mentioned a friend of mine who works in Scotland. He was at Celtic, wasn't he, before in the youth ranks, I think. So you made a lot of free transfers, and then you went and got Will Evans. You went and spent a bit of money, got him out of Newport. Was somebody that I think Wrexham fans would have been quite happy to have got Will Evans. I mean, the early impression from the outside looking in is fabulous pickup. Has he already looked like he's repaying the money?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't have been a massive amount either that we'd have shelled out for him because you mentioned it there, we're very shrewd in the transfer business that we do. And, what we've also done in that is get players out for money. So Will Swan's gone to Crawley for a fee. DKD goes to Barnsley for just shy of $750,000 or whatever it may be. And, we've moved players on and not, we've accumulated a lot of income in and not put a lot outgoing. But in terms of his impact, he's been absolutely fantastic, but he's one of those players who his footballing story is quite weird. I think only 4 years ago he wasn't playing full-time pro. He didn't come through academy setup. He came into the game quite late, and he's such a humble lad as well. He's really settled into the club really, really well. He's adapted and taken on the Mansfield culture and the Nigel Clough mantra, at the drop of a hat. And some of the goals that he scored has just reflected his ability. I mean, he made one slight mistake in his first interview. He revealed that he can play left wing back, and Nigel Clough's eyes would have lit up because he loves to play players out of position. But and he has utilised him there on a time or two as well, I have to say. But in terms of his contributions to the team, he's been absolutely fantastic. The goal that he scored at Wigan just typified the type of player he is, just standing off, looking and watching play, nipping in and getting the ball and having a crack from the edge of the box with his weak foot and putting it in the top corner. But some of his other players, well, some of his other goals, the club put out the goal of the month video early today, and you watch some of them back, and it's just his movement is in awareness and that in terms of leading the line. And whether he plays up there with Gregory or Ben Waine, who's on loan from Plymouth Argyle, he just adapts to the role that he plays very, very well and just seems to it. And the fans have absolutely taken to him. And it's easy to see why so many clubs win for him. And I have to say, I think he's a loyal lad. I think, I don't think he'll be the type of player that will be actively looking for a move, this time next year. But there'll be clubs sniffing around for him, mark my words, come January, never mind next summer. So he's the next one that realistically we will have a fight to keep on our hands. And, whilst we've got him, we'll make the most of him.
What's the dynamic between? Well, we need a striker, so if he fancies it, we'll do some tapping up the weekend. But what's the dynamic between him and Lee Gregory in terms of, we see old school strike partnerships? Just before I came on, I was watching Richard Kone, who's thriving for Wickham, and you see different types of strikers, and Gregory, I think, gets pinned as this, bit of a cumbersome target man, but actually he's still so effective at the level you see in the goals he's scoring. Is it a kind of, not little and large type, but what is their dynamic like up top? What are defences getting when they come up against Gregory and Evans is what I'm trying to get at.
It's just an understanding. Lee Gregory, for a start, is very astute. I think people that look at him as an out-and-out target man, well, that's your first mistake because he can play very well to the ball, to feet. He reads the game superbly well. And we all thought when he sort of came in that it would be a case of just sort of lumping it up to him, trying to get crosses in the box to him. It's not that at all. He drops deep, he creates play, and he's very aware. And sometimes when he misses games, yeah, we do miss him, but we've got other players that slot in well. And in terms of the dynamic between Gregory and Evans, it's just more of an understanding. If one drops, the other will press, vice versa. If one's in the box, another will draw a defender out. They're just very aware spatially of each other. They give each other the room to progress into. If Lee Gregory drops deep, Will Evans will push on. If Will Evans has dropped deep, Gregory will try and push on a little bit higher and create the space. And they just bounce off each other. Well, it's not a case of lump it up to Gregory, he flicks it on, and Evans runs in behind. It's just a real understanding of the positions and their awareness on the pitch and bringing in their teammates as well. And I don't think you can particularly buy that or coach that. It just is one of those things which comes naturally, and it's all about the work that they do on the training ground. And to come in and to hit it off so well as they have done, it's great.
Lots of changes then. I was just having a quick look at the team that we beat 2-0. Thankfully, hopefully we see a repeat of that from our point of view back in March. I hadn't actually realised how much it had changed. I'm looking at Christy Pym in goal still there. Aidan Flint doesn't seem like he's necessarily a starter now, based on some of the lineups. I don't know if that's right. Would you say he's likely to start the weekend?
Yeah, he's injured, right?
Yes. So he's in and out. We've seen, is it Aaron Lewis in the midfield? He's still there. But a lot of Jordan Bowery, we know, was a forward, but then has been transformed under Nigel Clough into this fullback. But, that starting attack, if I look at, we've just been talking about Evans and Gregory. It was Akins and Swan and Keillor-Dunn in behind. A totally different, attacking lineup. I'm then looking at Reed, and Ollie Clark was in there as well. Lewis Brunt, who obviously we've now got, but he's not been well recently and hasn't been able to get into the team. So looking at the team you've got now, I mean, who are the players that we maybe weren't familiar with that are now key pieces of the puzzle for you guys?
It's weird to sort of look at it in that way, because we've kept that. When you say it in that way, it does sound like we've made a lot of wholesale changes and, brought in a load of players in the summer. We haven't. It's just circumstance of those players that you've mentioned. Aidan Flint picked up an injury at Lincoln away earlier this season and has been out. He's been missed in dribs and drabs. Alfie Kilgore, you didn't see anything of him last season because he spent all of it injured. He's just come back from injury. So I couldn't actually predict what the lineup will be on Saturday. The only thing I can say for 99% certainty is that we won't play in the same formation and style that we did last year. We play with wing backs now. We've gone to a back three, back five, however you look at it, and it's changed. And in terms of that attacking lineup, again, Lucas Akins, you won't have seen his name in the lineup recently because, again, he went on international duty in the previous international break, not the one that's just gone, the one before that. Picked up an injury, hasn't played since then, other than a few sub appearances. He's sort of him and Elliot Hewitt, who will be known well to Wrexham fans, having cropped him in the first red card.
Yeah.
Of that, he's again still on his way back to full fitness, so he hasn't really got 90 in him. So they tend to shear right wing back at 45 apiece. And it's just one of those crazy ones. The only one really that we've moved on from that is Ollie Clark, who we sold to Swindon in the summer for personal reasons. His partner was pregnant. Ollie Clark's parents live Bristol way. He wanted support for his family. Off you go. It's simple as that. In terms of who to look out for, it's really difficult to say. I think obviously your main ones are obviously Will Evans and Lee Gregory. Lewis Reed is missed the last couple of games through injury, but he should be back in contention. The one for me is Dave Desjajalaja, who played in midfield for Burton last year, played higher up in midfield as well. He's slotted in superbly inside that back three for us so far this season, and I still think that Nigel Clough will stick with him there because he's a very solid choice, reads the game really well, can play out from the back and brings a calming presence to it. It's probably him and Fraser Blake-Tracy and Stephen McLaughlin, whoever is on that left wing back role, because that's where a lot of our play seems to come from. And that's the worst question I hate on every podcast I go on. Who's your star man? Because we don't have one. We just have a squad of players who just do the job. It's so weird.
I'm very much. You're probably going to get promoted with us, and then I'll ask you again next season and the reverse game. But what I will say is, I think it's interesting though, because it is going to be a very similar matchup. So it's not, last time it's a 3v4. It is essentially, however you want to dissect it, 3-4-1-2, 3-5-2. It's a back three. It's wing backs. It is a can you win your battle? Can Ryan Barnett get the better of your left wing back? Can our left wing back get the better of your right wing back? And in the midfield is an area where we've performed really well, George Dobson in some games, but you did something we couldn't do, which was draw with Birmingham. And the runaway steam train. Although, like us, you did also lose to Stevenage, who seem to be the giant killers of any team that does well. But lastly, then, how are you feeling about the weekend? I mean, it doesn't feel that long ago to me, in my mind, that we played you at the back end of the League Two campaign. Obviously, we both ended up going up, which I think deservedly so in the end over the course of the campaign. I know we were both kind of a bit nip and tuck towards the end, but deservedly so. League One, we both started well. How are you feeling about the game? How are you feeling about Wrexham and kind of your feeling about the game going into the weekend?
I think the massive difference is expectation levels. You expect to get promoted again, and if you fail to get promoted again, that's a failure. For us, it's not. You've built this whole world around you, which is great to see. Watching the journey from when they first came in non-league, not having the crowds getting there, and then getting up the divisions is great. But what you've brought with that is a massive weight of expectation around everybody's neck. So a draw to you is a bad result. A draw to us is a very good result, because our ambition is to stay in the division and to progress quietly as that sort of silent side that just chugs on like a sturdy train, just doing its job, going down the tracks. And I think for me, it's one of those really weird feelings that this season going into games in comparison to last year, I have no feelings whatsoever, because the more that last season went on, the expectation was there to get the job finally done and get over the line and get promoted. This year, it literally is just be hard to beat. And you talk about us drawing with Birmingham and losing to Stevenage, and that's a typical Mansfield thing. If you look at that week, we have the international break. We come back from it and we're really slugged in the first half, really slow to get going again. Concede a daft goal, and that's the goal which ends up winning the game. And then we go to Wigan on a Tuesday night where we're thinking this is one of the games where we're going to get turned over. This is where it's going to click into life. And then we go and win 2-1. And then we get Birmingham at home and we think, we're going to get turned over again. All the £1 million that they've spent and everything. We give away a sloppy goal a little bit. We gave them a little bit too much respect. And then the Nigel Clough factor clicks in, which is we do not come off this pitch without giving the opposition a game and letting them then know that they've been in a battle. And that's what we did, and we got a good goal back, and we could have arguably gone on to win the game. So in terms of Saturday, I think it's going to your place and just doing exactly the same thing, setting ourselves up, being hard to beat, and coming away with at least a point, and just continuing this nice little run we're on. But if we lose the game, and we move on to the next one, and we just build again. But I think at this stage of the season, the only thing that weighs in my mind is team selection, because for the first time in his 4-year tenure as Mansfield manager, Nigel Clough has got every player bar 2 available to him. Rhys Oates is still out injured. The other one that will probably miss the game will be George Williams, who's on compassionate leave at the moment. Obviously, George Baldock, he was at MK Dons with him, so he's having a bit of time off at the moment. But the quandary in that is Aidan Flint's back fit, Alfie Kilgore's back fit. Both of those two, in any sense the world, would be 2 starting names on your team sheet, but they've not played, and the back 3 have deputised for them, done superbly well. So do you drop them at a time where, against a team like Wrexham, who are obviously going to come and be a little bit physical and a little bit pacey, when they've not quite got the match pace, or do you stick with what you've got? So I'll have more feeling about it when I see the team sheet at 11:30 on Saturday, and what will be. But it'll be a good game, good atmosphere, and that's all we can ask for in this division.
Reminder, early kickoff, as Craig mentioned there, on the telly as well. If you're not able to make it, it should be a crack. It's two very good teams. To some of the League One stalwarts, surprise packages, really. I mean, all the promoted teams. As I said, I've just been watching Stockport get royally turned over by Wycombe, but all the promoted teams having a good go at it. And as a reminder, if you want to learn more about Mansfield, even more in depth in our little short chat here, go check out Mansfield Matters. Craig and the guys over there will be, I'm sure. When do you release, Craig? Every what day? I should have asked you this before.
Yeah, it's all right. it varies every week, really, but this week we'll be live tomorrow. So it's either Wednesday or a Thursday. Just follow us at MTFC Matters, X,
You can go
Twitter,
find
whatever.
it. They've got
Come and find us.
catalogues, Twitter. If you want to find them, you can find them. Craig's very knowledgeable, as is the team at Mansfield. So let's see. All the best, Craig, for the rest of the season, except for Saturday, obviously. And yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on.
The Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Bay.